what the rentals are. But that's the fee schedule that we're currently on. Now, I have told the commission, and the commission has given their agreement, that when we have an opportunity to negotiate something different from that with a promoter or someone that wants to bring something in, we have sort of been given the go-ahead to do that. And in fact, that is what we did on the London Spoonful. He did not want to pay the $3,600 up front, but he was willing to pay us more for selling his tickets than we normally charge. So we pretty well did all right on that based on that agreement. There is a misconception in the community that the auditorium has 2 full-time employees. That is not true. Nancy Baptiste is the only full-time employee. Coincidentally, we have the back office in the office area of the audit for our special events office. Eric Young does that, but he is not part of the audit. That's a completely separate budget from the auditorium. The only reason that I leave Eric down there is because on Music in the Park program and so much of what he does, it helps him to be downtown already. So he uses that office, but he could just as easily be in our office. The current management agreement was a letter of agreement between the CAPC and the city. It was signed in January of 2010. And it calls for the CAPC to operate the facility, report any maintenance needs, do booking and contracts for users, exercise care and control of utility costs. Let me speak though to utility costs and the fiscal plant study that we did. When we heat and cool the auditorium, part of one of the units, I may get this a little wrong, but this is my understanding, also heats and cools the gym. There should be a baffle in that system where the air can be directed one place or the other, and there's not. So when we're cooling down the aud for an event, tomorrow night for instance, and there is no event in the gym, we're still cooling the gym. Heat, same thing. So that's part of the facility study, but we still try to keep the cost of utilities down by waiting until the last minute to start, that we can, to start heating and cooling for events. We maintain the ticket purchasing system so online tickets can be bought and sold. We ensure that the display units, display windows and marquee information are current. We keep the facility clean and safe. Purchase and keep current any licenses necessary to provide concessions, and that would be beer and wine. Purchase and maintain music licenses, licensing agreements. That is not in the audit budget because we do that for the whole city, but we spend about $1,000 a year on those licensing agreements. Purchase and maintain, property insurance on the CAPC equipment in the facility. Negotiate and oversee either a contract with a qualified tech director or maintain a list of firms. Right now it's Ron, and you have to use Ron because it's his equipment. Pay the city the agreed upon amount of $1,000 yearly for offset of utilities in the special events office. The city agreed to provide liability and property insurance for the facility, provide for the maintenance of the facility, accept responsibility for and hold the CAPC harmless for any state or federally mandated shortages in the facility, maintain the safety systems mandated for the facility, and that would be the alarm systems and the fire extinguishers. Pay the utility bills, agree to honor the payment of any contracts of not more than 1 year in length signed by the CAPC in the normal course of management of the audit, should the city decide to terminate the agreement or close the facility. That right now would be Ron's contract and our contract with the ticketing agency, and not interfere in the daily operations of the facility. Both parties agreed to the following. The CAPC shall retain any rental fees or concession income earned, and while this is a year-to-year agreement, it can be terminated by 90 days written notice from any party. So that is our management letter of agreement with the city. There is a misconception in the public that the city is paying us to manage the auditorium. The city is not paying us to manage the auditorium. In fact, we're spending about $100,000 a year to manage the facility. I guess that's about all I have. We'll be happy to take questions.
What was that last thing you were saying, Jim, on, you get the proceeds, the last thing you said from your...
From the rental and the concessions.
Oh,
I wanted to just say that I didn't ask for this meeting because I thought necessarily that anything was wrong, but if you'll see the date on the day that we signed as a city council this contract, it was at the end of January, and we were just told the month before that the CAPC was no longer going to pay the expenses for the aud, the utilities, the things like that. We had to deal with that, and then, who was going to run it? The CAPC had all this time, but now it was like, who was going to do it? So it was a hurry-up decision, and that's why we just agreed to it without knowing everything that was involved, or what it would take for the city to do it, or what it would take for the CAPC to do it, and in whose best interest would it be either way. We just didn't have all the facts, we didn't have all the information, and now we're going to have to make that decision again, either as a CAPC or as a city council, one way or the other. So that's why I asked for this meeting, so that we could know all the details, not that anything was wrong or anything was right. We just have to know and be informed before we can make the best decision.
Did I say 6?
So the information Jim presented, is there something there that you didn't hear that you would want to hear making the decision? Some kind of detail? I'm sorry,
Well,
I'm asking you.
I did send in questions.
Okay.
I don't know if Jim wanted to address those or not, but I did want to know, he's kind of told me on the side before, privately, what it was that we paid Nancy for if she's a auditorium manager, if we don't have anything in the auditorium. I mean, I get that asked a lot. And so that was one of the questions. And then if you want to respond, or I'll just say the best is what you told me.
No, I can remember some of them. Nancy might be able to tell us more of them. In the first place, we get the phone rings down there constantly with people. While we don't rent the auditorium to people as often as we'd like to, we get a lot of calls asking questions about that. Nancy fields those phone calls. When we have events in the auditorium has to be staffed with ushers. Even though these people are volunteer, they have to be trained, some of them on the